Just this week, my friend who is over 60 was hacked by a company she thought was her internet security company. And today, my husband's accounts were hacked. It is well documented that people over 50 are targeted for these type of attacks. They are considered easy prey. Now, I've had this video idea on my list for a month, but in light of yesterday's CrowdStrike IT outage and the concern of cyber attack more globally, I figured this video needed to be bumped to the top. So let's talk about my firsthand experience of how hackers do what they do to get your personal information and money. Then we can talk about ways to avoid falling prey to these crooks. Welcome back to Senior Sparkle. I am Trisha and I'm so glad you're here. So my friend needed to update her McAfee security system for her internet. She went online and contacted the company she believed was McAfee, based on the links and the contact information she found online. When the person she was speaking to asked for access to her computer, she didn't think anything of it because that's what they normally do. And they clean up the computer and make sure everything's working properly. So she thought, okay, and she gave them full access to her computer. Luckily, she did not walk away from her computer and just let this McAfee people take care of it. And she was watching what they were doing. She noticed that they were going into files that she didn't think they should be in, and she couldn't actually understand why they were doing that. They were accessing bank account information, different things like that. They were also transferring files off of her computer. She immediately called her bank, who gave her these very wise suggestions. They told her to immediately turn off the internet, disconnect from the internet on your computer. Then they told her to turn off the computer. They also told her to turn off, unplug, and disconnect her router for her Wi-Fi to stop the crooks in their tracks. And of course, she had to go through and change all her bank information and all those things, but it didn't stop there. So after stopping these bad guys who were transferring all of her information, she then goes in, tries to contact McAfee again, and this time she didn't get people necessarily stealing her information, but she still got some shady people. She gets a company that's kind of acting like they're McAfee. When she asks, is it McAfee? And they kind of like, yeah, you know. But when she actually lets them take over her computer and they remove McAfee and they install their program, she's realizing like, this is different. What's going on? And then when she's billed for their services, she is billed under Ginnygram. And they also installed something called QuickFox, QuickFox. She wasn't feeling easy about this because it's like, wait a minute, you said you were McAfee, but now I'm getting a bill from Ginnygram. It didn't make sense to her. When you go online and you look up Ginnygram, you see a laundry list of complaints to the Better Business Bureau about this company and how they fraud people. I'm not sure that they're stealing personal information. I don't know that for sure, but definitely the complaints were about being overcharged, things like that. And they definitely were deceitful because they lead people, and every one of the complaints seemed to say the same thing. They were led to believe that they were McAfee, when in fact they are not McAfee. Now, keep in mind, I am not a trained cybersecurity, or any of that expert. But to help avoid getting connected to the wrong person, I generally make sure that when I'm searching for a number, I do not choose the first or second or sometimes even the third name that comes up on the list. Now, if you notice, whether it's Google, Yahoo, whatever search engine you're using, those first few, it says sponsored. In small letters, it says sponsored. Those are people that paid to be at the top. And too often, the bad guys are paying to be at the top and be the first ones that you click on. So my suggestion is avoid those when you're searching for a company. Avoid those first few. Get down to where it actually lists the companies. The other thing I do, I make sure I don't click on links in any emails that I received. Unsolicited emails, emails that I'm not expecting that just randomly pop in, don't click on those links. You never know who they're gonna go to. Just because the email says it's the local bank doesn't mean it's your local bank, because unfortunately, these hackers are good at what they do, and they can actually mimic and make it look like it is from your bank. And that's how they gain your trust quickly. That you see the email, you're like, oh, that's just my bank. I know who they are. Well, is it really your bank? And often, if you look at the email address, if it is legit, it usually would go back to the name of the person at the bank name, right? Too often, if it's a hacker, it will go back to some random long name, generic name often, at Gmail, at Yahoo, at whatever. So that's another way to kind of look and see, is this legit? But it's better safe than sorry. Don't click on links in emails, even if you think it might be legit. Anything unsolicited, if they're coming to you, double check, be skeptical. Coming up, I will share with you how my grandmother got swindled out of $3,000 with a phone call. That's all it took, one phone call. Another technology tip would be to use very strong passwords. You don't want to use your firstborn's name. Unfortunately, it's a meme out there now. I mean, I was the firstborn, right? So too often, parents use their firstborn child's name. Hackers find that very easily, and they can figure that out quickly. So don't be that person. Don't use 12345 as your password. Don't use secret as your password. Those are all very common ones, along with firstborn's name. In addition to making very strong passwords, they also have that two-factor authentication process that most places have. That will also help protect you. This next hack to steal money is done by the phone, and too often it is senior citizens that they are targeting. So people 50s, 60s, 70s, the older you are, the more at risk you are for these type of scams. So my grandmother, about 7 years ago, received a phone call. There was a woman on the other line. She answers it with her sweet little shaky voice and says, hello. The other person, it was a female, was crying. My grandmother says, Trisha? She thought it was me. Guess what? She just gave this hacker who was calling her the name to use as who to act like they are. The person said yes, they were Trisha. They were crying. They claimed they needed bail money, and then put the jailer on the phone. The jailer tells them they wanted $10,000 in jail money to bail me out of jail. My grandmother sadly tells them, I don't have $10,000, but I have $3,000. So guess what? The jailer says, okay, we'll take $3,000 and make it in gift cards. Gift cards? Yes, they asked my grandmother for gift cards. They gave my grandmother the number to call back. She went on down to the local market and she bought $3,000 worth of gift cards. If only the checker or the cashier maybe would have asked her questions about it, but maybe she wouldn't have told them anything, Who knows? But seems like they would have asked. So my grandmother gets these $3,000 worth of gift cards. She calls the number back. She gives them all the codes and all the security ID, scratches off the back, gives all that information over the phone to the crooks, the thieves. And just like that, the thieves stole $3,000 from my grandmother. My grandmother never mentioned any of this to me. She never brought it up. It wasn't until 3 months later when my aunt called me upset with me for borrowing $3,000 from my granny. I was like, what $3,000? I've never borrowed money from my granny. I take her food when I go over there. I buy her groceries. I do whatever I can to help my granny. Now, not that my granny needed a whole lot, but I always wanted to take care of her when I went to go visit her. I never let her pay for anything. Absolutely nothing. My aunt was insisting that I had borrowed $3,000, but my grandmother wouldn't tell her why. So then we go back to my granny and we talked to her, and she said she didn't want to tell anybody because she was protecting me. I was like, protecting me from what? She's protecting me because she didn't want my reputation ruined, and she didn't want people to know that I had been jailed for who knows what they told her. I don't even remember. How sweet is that? So she held that. She held that for months. She held that secret to protect me. It ends up coming out. That's when I got the whole story of what happened and how they swindled her out of $3,000. So what could my granny have done to protect herself? Okay, she could be sympathetic. She can tell the person, yes, I'll get, Trisha Bell money, do all those things, get the phone number, get all that information. But then as soon as you get off the phone, she could have called my cell phone directly. The number that she knows is correct, called me directly, and I would have answered and told her, no, I'm at work. I am not in jail. I'm at work. The other thing she could have done, because the jailer actually told her a name of some jail that I was in, he used some local city name and jail. Local city jail. When you look the local city jail name up, it is non-existent. There's a couple things my granny could have done to realize that that was all a scam and that I wasn't in any danger. But unfortunately, that's what they prey on. These thieves know who to prey on and how to do it. Now there was another one. My husband, who was in his 70s, was having trouble with his ATM card. So he drove to the bank, which is a safe bet, right? You go right into the bank. So he drove to the bank. They were looking into things, trying to figure out why it wasn't working correctly, and they told him they would get back to him. So later that afternoon, he gets a phone call, just so happens, and this person on the other line never said they were from the bank, but said they were from fraud report, something or other, and asked him for all this personal information, his name, his full name, his date of birth, his address, his phone number, his social security. They asked him for everything. And he, because he was having those issues that morning, was thinking it was the bank. Now looking back, I'm thinking, okay, it was after hours. The bank is definitely not going to call you after hours, and they're not going to ask you for all that personal information. Thankfully, we were able to call all the credit companies, all the credit reporting bureaus, put a lock on his account. Everything was locked down. No accounts could be opened under his social, nothing. Everything was completely locked down. And he was able to get in touch with the bank to stop any fraud from happening. So what could he have done? So he was already in the mind state, and this is just a big old number games for these thieves, right? They're just calling thousands and thousands of people and using this sob story, whatever it is. And it just so happened that story resonated with my husband because he was having that trouble. So what you do is if you get a phone call, you can actually say, okay, give me your phone number. Call the number you normally use. Don't call them their number. Call the number that you normally use for the company and confirm with them that this person that has the other phone number is legit and was calling you for legit reasons. The same thing holds true if someone is coming to your door. If they're at your door and they say they're from the gas company to check a gas leak, tell them, hold on just a moment, shut the door, lock the door behind you, of course, call the gas company, the number that you know and trust, and ask them, have they sent someone to your door to check your gas leak? Now, personally, I never answer my front door unless it's somebody I know or somebody I'm expecting. Otherwise, I don't answer. Again, I am not a trained cybersecurity person or in any form of security. I am a teacher. I am just highly skeptical of too many things. That's just how my mind works. I question everything. And some people hate it, but that's just how I am. I'm inquisitive. You tell me something, I'm going to follow up with questions for sure. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, please share it with a friend that you can help as well and give it a thumbs up, which will really help me out. Let your age be your fuel that drives you. Keep shining bright at any age. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.